What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Wired to Be Rich, the place where we rip the mask off the hustle, question the blueprint, and talk about what it actually takes to build a life so aligned that it feels surreal, but also very expensive emotionally that you sometimes question why you even wanted this in the first place. That has been my entire vibe lately. I'm climbing so high. I have so many goals, so many dreams. And I'm just like, is it worth it? Today's episode is not for the crowd pleasers. It's not for the people pleasers or anyone still pretending that growth is all spa days and vision boards. This one is for those of us who are actively, painfully, and courageously outgrowing our old lives and feeling every silent crack of that becoming process in real time. We're talking about how leveling up takes real courage, not just motivational poster energy. I mean that trench level grit where you have to look in the mirror and admit, I can't keep shrinking for people who never plan to expand with me. The kind of courage that makes you feel like you're betraying everybody just because you finally chose yourself. And yeah, we are going there. The part nobody warns you about. How growth, even when it's good, even when it's what you prayed for, can feel lonely as hell. Not because you're broken, not because you're unlovable, but because you're stepping into a frequency that your old life simply cannot survive. So if you've ever sat with yourself in a moment of clarity or collapse and thought, why does success feel heavier than I imagined? Or why does chasing the life I want feel like grieving the one I had? Then this episode is definitely for you. We're going to talk about the isolation, the grief, the silent surgeries you perform on your relationships, the way people start to misread your peace as arrogance, and how you keep going anyway. Even when your circle gets smaller, your time gets tighter. Your needs start to sound unfamiliar to everyone who you used to know. I'm talking about the moment where your back is against the wall. This is about what it really costs to elevate, y'all. I want y'all to really turn this episode up because I'm finna give y'all the game. So let's get comfortable. Grab your matcha, pour that wine, light the candle, take a deep breath. Do whatever you have to do to lock in. Let's jump right into it.
She's not just a podcast host. She's a movement.
Manda Lea is teaching people how to break cycles and build real wealth, mentally, financially, and spiritually.
People all over the world are waking up to her message.
Wired to Be Rich isn't just a podcast. It's a mindset shift.
She makes you believe again in yourself, in your power, and your ability to actually have the life you always known was meant for you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Manda Lea, entrepreneur, speaker, and founder of Balance and Destiny, and this is Wired to Be Rich. Let's be clear. Growth is not cute. It's not a TikTok reel set to lo-fi music with you journaling in satin pajamas while sipping a green smoothie. It's not a curated aesthetic of soft lighting and luxury routines. Growth is messy. Growth is ugly. Growth is violent in the most tender way. It's nerve-wracking, y'all. It's lonely. It's that hollow ache in your chest when you start realizing you can't bring everybody with you. It's crying after sending that boundary text you know is going to get misunderstood. It's staring at your ceiling at 2 a.m. asking yourself, if wanting more out of life, out of relationships, out of yourself makes you ungrateful, selfish, or delusional. People celebrate the glow up, but they don't talk about the graveyard that exists underneath it. They don't talk about the emotional demolition it takes to break even. They don't talk about how painful it is to walk away from love that was familiar, even if it was also limiting. They don't talk about how triggering it is to suddenly realize your dream life requires you to become someone you've never been and leave behind a version of you that everyone else got used to. This process is not a self-help seminar. It's psychological warfare between who you've always been told to be and who you actually are at your core. And to be real, most people don't make it through that war without bleeding a little. Some lose their voice, some lose their confidence, But the ones who win, they lose their attachment to being understood. Leveling up is less about aesthetics and way more about audacity. The audacity to ask for more, to expect better, to walk away without closure, to choose peace over proving your point. It's sitting with the discomfort of silence. It's resisting the urge to call someone back just because you really missed them, even though you know they were never really clapping for you in the first place. It's not just vision boards and journaling, y'all, like I said earlier. It's breaking patterns you watched your parents repeat for decades. It's calling out your own bullshit in real time. It's recognizing that sometimes you're the one who kept you small, and you're also the only one who can set yourself free. Whenever I'm praying, whether it's the morning time or the nighttime, I'm doing my meditation, I'm reflecting so deeply because I understand that a lot of things that have happened in my life is a cause because it's a choice that I made. Not everything, though. What I am talking about is when you have to make the hard calls, like leaving a job that pays well but starves your soul. That was me last year. It was one of the hardest things I had to do. It's walking away from someone who, quote unquote, didn't do anything wrong, but they also never saw the version of you that you were fighting to become. It's betting on yourself while you're still shaking, knowing damn well the safety net that the safety net doesn't exist yet, and you're still choosing to jump over that cliff anyway. And that's not just bravery, that is legacy work. So the next time someone tells you you've changed, I hope you look them dead in the eye and say, yeah, I had to. Staying the same was killing me, because this journey is not for the faint of heart, but it is for the chosen ones, the ones who know deep down that being comfortable is the slowest form of death and that you were wired for something more. All right, let's kill the noise right now that being lonely at the top is a good or a bad thing. It's just a misdiagnosis. It's actually not about even being alone. It's about being unavailable to anything that doesn't honor the version of you that fought like hell to emerge. What people call loneliness is usually just the absence of chaos, the absence of distraction, the absence of noise you had to normalize. What feels like isolation is actually clarity hitting you in real time. Those nights alone in your bed, when you're feeling like you have nobody but yourself, the only thing that's happening is your mind putting pieces together and realizing how blind you were about so many things and how distracted you were about so many things. So I want you to hear this and remember that you're not lonely. You're just not sitting at tables you had to beg to be seen at. You're not texting back people out of boredom. You're not validating dysfunction by staying quiet just to keep the peace. You're finally choosing not to pour into things that never once poured back. And the minute you start pulling that energy back, people start flipping the script. Suddenly you're acting funny. You're too good. You're changing. And you know what? You are. And that's the assignment. The truth is, the climb feels lonely because you made a conscious decision to stop participating in the performance of loyalty. You're not available for half friendships that only show up when it benefits them. You're not giving space to check-ins that come with side eyes or comparisons. You're not tolerating love that only works when you're small, agreeable, and shrinking. You've disconnected from dysfunction, and that silence is sacred, y'all. That's the sound of your nervous system finally regulating. That's what peace sounds like after years of white noise disguised as companionship. And yes, it gets quiet, real quiet. That part is real. But it's not the kind of silence that punishes you. It's the kind that heals you. The kind where you wake up one day and you be like, this is why I went through it. It's all worth it. The kind that shows you who you are when nobody's in your ear, when no one's clapping, when nobody's watching. The kind that allows you to recalibrate your identity based on truth, not trauma. You're not being left out. You're being spiritually gated. You're being ushered out of the audience and onto the stage. You're no longer reachable by guilt, no longer accessible through trauma bonds and nostalgia. That expired energy can't reach you unless you go looking for it. And here's the wild part. People will make up entire narratives about you just to explain away your absence. They'll tell themselves you switched up. They'll frame your boundaries as betrayal. And why? Because it's easier than admitting they had full access to you and still couldn't meet you where you were headed. So let me say it plain. You're not lonely. You're not arrogant. You're not cold. You're just finally in a room that your frequency built, and you're learning to be comfortable there, even if you had to walk in that room alone. And I want you to really hear me on this next part. Turn the volume up if you have to. I know it's hard, but trust me, better company is coming. Company that doesn't compete with you. Company that claps when you win every single time. Company that gets it without you needing to explain yourself 3 different ways. But first, you have to prove to yourself that you can hold the line even when it shakes, that you can stand in alignment even when it echoes. Because what's at the top isn't loneliness, it's sovereignty, it's self-respect, it's spiritual quiet, it's the reward for choosing evolution over ego. And you didn't come this far just to apologize for that either. This is where the separation really begins. This is where most people slip. Not because they're weak, but because they're still wired for reaction. You know what I'm talking about. You're on the come up. You've been putting in the internal work. You're minding your business, healing your wounds, keeping your head down, and then boom. Someone comes in sideways with disrespect, passive aggression, jealous undertones, a slick comment, a lie, a jab disguised as a joke, a reminder of the version of you they still think they can access. In that moment, that's a spiritual crossroad. The old you wants to swing, wants to prove a point, wants to remind them that you are not the one, wants to be understood, wants to read them for filth and then some. But the elevated you, that version of you has range. You have to. The evolved you understands that reacting is easy. Anybody can react, but choosing precision over performance, that's growth. That's strategy. That's how you protect your bandwidth. You stop clapping back and start cutting off. The new you doesn't do messy, doesn't do drama, doesn't explain boundaries like a customer service rep begging to be respected. The new you moves surgically, quietly, cleanly, decisively. You recognize when someone is trying to bait you into old behavior just to say, see, they haven't changed. You feel it, but instead of taking the bait, you move with strategy, not emotion. You don't panic, you pivot. You don't confront, you detach. You don't broadcast your boundaries, you enforce them in silence. You remove access without performance. You reclaim your energy like it's equity, because it is. And this shift, it's not about revenge. It's not about ego. It's about preservation. It's about understanding that your peace is not up for negotiation just because someone's chaos needs a home. It's about realizing your purpose is too expensive to waste it on people who don't even have the emotional credit to invest in your frequency. You've entered a season where you don't have to decode intentions, argue over projections, or prove your worth to people committed to misunderstanding you. That's all noise. And you're the surgeon now. Every move you make is calculated, clean, and rooted in self-trust, right? Because here's the truth. And I want you to turn your volume up again for this part. For real, for real. Here's the truth. The higher you go, the less explaining you can afford to do. And the more aligned you become, the more unnecessary it feels to defend your alignment. You start to understand that peace is a privilege and it is one of the highest forms of currency. And not everyone deserves to be in the room with it. So yes, you're not cold. You're not mean. You're just finally operating from a place of clarity. You've realized your energy is your most valuable asset, and anything that threatens it gets cut. Not in chaos, but in calmness. Because when you're surgical with your energy, your life stops bleeding from people who were never supposed to have a scalpel in the first place. Y'all like that analogy? I do too. It's cute. Exactly. Here's what doesn't get said enough. Success costs more than money. It costs people, real ones, people you built with, people you laughed with, people who loved the version of you that didn't challenge them. Growth doesn't always end in relationships with a fight. Sometimes it ends with silence, with distance, with that quiet realization that you're not on the same path anymore. And no amount of history can close the gap. You'll feel the sting. You'll question yourself. You'll think, maybe I'm the problem just because the air feels thinner at the top. Not everyone can climb Mount Everest, y'all. It's not a punishment. It's called pruning. The deeper you step into your purpose, and your purpose is exciting. I want y'all to hold on to that feeling. When you think about what you want in your future, anytime you feel defeated, I want you to anchor into that, because that is what's going to keep you going. The deeper you step into your purpose, the more misaligned energy naturally falls away. And I don't want you to be sad about it either. I want you to rejoice, because that is your biggest sign that you are on the right path. You don't even have to cut it. Your evolution does the work for you. And yes, it hurts. It's supposed to, but you're not losing. You're clearing space. Those departures, they're not setbacks, they're signals. The life you asked for doesn't fit inside the one you had. And that's not tragic, that's transformation. So when the invitations stop coming, when the phone goes quiet, when the support starts feeling selective, take the hint. The climb comes with less noise, but far more clarity. Not everyone can come. That's the cost. But what you gain in peace, alignment, and truth is priceless. Let's talk facts real quick. Your environment either sharpens you or stunts you, period. You cannot build a 10-story vision with people who still think in basements. That's not elitism, it's alignment. If your circle doesn't challenge how you think, expand what you believe is possible, or keep you grounded when you're slipping, they're not your circle. They're your ceiling. And here's the trap. The trap is proximity. Just because someone's been around doesn't mean they've grown. Familiarity isn't proof of compatibility. Love isn't always enough when evolution is on the table. The people who got you through the survival may not be equipped for your success. And that doesn't mean they're bad. It just means they were seasonal. And when you're intentional about where you're headed, you don't just accept who shows up. You curate who stays. And that requires honesty, discomfort, a willingness to notice when the vibe shifts, even if no one said a word. It's noticing when the conversation stays small, when the energy drains, when being around them feels like spiritual jet lag. And at some point, you have to stop choosing community based on history and start choosing based on capacity. Curate your circle like it's infrastructure, because it is. I think I want to end on this right here. Outgrowing isn't cold. It's cellular. It's the natural process of becoming. What no longer feeds your evolution must fall away. And it's not betrayal. It's called biology. When your inner world expands, your external world starts to shed. Your beliefs, your habits, the people around you, the spaces that you were once in, things you once held close to start to feel foreign. Not because you're bitter, but because you're out of resonance. And yes, it comes with guilt. You'll second guess yourself. You'll worry you're being selfish, dramatic, or too much, but that's just the friction of stepping into a self that's been buried under your conditioning. You're not too much, y'all. You're just finally in alignment with who you actually are without needing to dilute it for anyone else's comfort. So, if you're in a season where people are falling off, where things feel unrecognizable, where the silence is louder than the applause, take a breath with me. Take a breath right now. That's not regression. It's called a clearing, and that's your system adjusting to the frequency you asked for. You're not losing your life, you're uncovering it. And the real ones, the aligned ones, the ones meant to walk with you into this next chapter, they'll meet you there. No convincing required. That's it for today's episode. If this hit home, if you felt seen, share it with someone who's quietly going through that elevation phase and needs the reminder that they're not crazy. They're just in alignment. You already know the vibes. Stay grounded, stay surgical, and keep climbing. The top isn't lonely. It's just private. And that's where peace lives. Talk to y'all next week on Wired to be Rich. Bye.